We'll go ahead and call the Ellis County Commission meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Donna, please call the roll.
Commissioner Butch Schleier,
I'm present.
Chair Dean Hazelhorst,
Present.
Commissioner Knopf.
Present.
Okay, you have a quorum present.
Thank you. Any changes to the order of business this evening? Butch, anything?
Nope.
Nope. Dustin, none? Nope. I'll ask for a motion to approve prior minutes, June 17th, 2019.
I'd make a motion we approve June 17th and July 1st? No, June 17th.
Just
June
June
17th,
17th.
2019 as they were presented.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries 3-0. Need a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through G.
I move we approve consent agenda items A through G as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Again, Donna, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Issues from persons not on the order of business this evening. Do we have anyone? Seeing none. Ellis County Solid Waste Transfer Station tire sale. Bill Ring will be presenting that in the absence of Vern.
Good evening, Commissioners. Bill Ring, Public Works Director. You have before you tonight a suggested item from our landfill foreman, Vern Reuter. He unfortunately is ill today, and I was going to be here anyway. Many years ago, it's probably been 10, there were grants available to do what they called a tire amnesty. And tires are something, and I know Butch in his years of public health, mosquito breeding ground, other problems. And so we have looked for years, and there just hasn't been anything available through KDHE, or we've even gone to some of the private foundations. So he's offering this as somewhat of an alternative, calling it a tire sale. Basically, we're looking at doing it at a 50% off of what we normally charge, to be able to let people, homeowners, not commercial businesses, bring tires in. It's going to cost them something, but, it'll be half of what it normally would, and suggest that, they try to clean up parts of the county. Also, as part of the suggestion, it would be offered the 2-week period before the Hayes City cleanup, the citywide cleanup that they do, because they also do not take tires because of the cost involved. So if a Hayes resident did have a tire, they still would have to bring it to us, but they could do it for the half price prior to. They've created a form from the information from the last tire amnesty that people would sign, attesting to the fact that it is from their farm or their home or their garage or whatever, that they're not a commercial business, they're not doing it for profit or otherwise. And this would allow us to, our suggestion is that this would allow us a 2-week period prior to the citywide cleanup to offer this as just one thing else we do at the landfill. And as he says, the financial impact would be between $1,500 and $3,000. And right now, as he states, we are on target to outpace last year's revenue. So overall, it should not negatively affect the landfill, and it would be a good thing for Ellis County and the environment.
Okay. Any questions, gentlemen?
Is there any limit on each customer?
No.
No.
Okay.
It's rather difficult to try to figure that out.
So that's probably why the wide range of potential impact on us is
Correct.
okay.
And you don't know how many people will choose to pay half price, because also one of the things that it costs the county money is that if a person chooses not to come pay, they throw it in a ditch, and it's now costing Ellis County 5 times that amount of money for me to send a crew of guys out with a truck to go out to a ditch to pick it up, and we still got to bring it to landfill, and we still got to pay to get rid of it. Right. So we're just asking our residents to be good stewards of the county and the environment, and, maybe offering a somewhat of an incentive in doing it this way.
You've ever done this before, Bill? Or will this be first?
This will be the first for us where we're doing the 50/50. It's been about 10 years since we got a KDHE grant where they offered us like $10,000. And so the first $10,000 of tires that came in, and then we cut it off. But those grants are not available. They just have, as the state is having budget crises, with what they can do, we've looked and tried, and there just hasn't been anything for the amnesty program. So we're trying to create our own, as he called it, a tire sale. Basically, it's about a 2-for-1. It's, it's half price, basically.
Seems like a good idea to me with the fire risk and
About that.
All right.
Right now, because we've got it broke down, we charge per ton. They've got a per tonnage rate. Two passenger car tires cost you $6. One costs you $6 because you really can't weigh it. So it would cost you $3 to bring 2 tires.
okay.
So if somebody has a pair of old tires in their garage and they're willing to drive out, it might cost them $6, for 4 tires.
Okay.
We're just trying to be creative to, come up with ways how we might be able to make things better and not take it completely, the landfill can't afford to completely do it, but
Yeah. No, that sounds good.
Yeah, it
I
does.
move that, you ready, Butch?
Sure.
I move that the commission accept the sale price of 5 cents a pound for waste tires at the Ellis County Solid Waste Transfer Station, and to allow the landfill foreman to implement a 2-week tire sale once a year.
I'll second that motion.
Donna, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0.
thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Next item, state FY 2020 grant awards, Health Department. Carrie?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Kerry McHugh, Ellis County Health Services. I really have 4 items to bring before you this evening. The first is the grants for the Health Department. I am asking on these documents, it looks like this in your packet. It's a pretty thick packet. I'm asking for your permission to sign the letter of agreement with the KDHE. This would be for the 3 basic grants that we get every year. The state formula grant, which is $19,397. The preparedness grant, which is $24,020. And then the immunization action plan, which is $34,8301. And it does not need a commissioner's signature, but I do need your approval to move forward. That also totals, I'm sorry, to $46,900.01 of grant funding into the department.
I think it's a great deal, Carrie. I have no problems with that. Dustin or Butch?
No problems.
Go forward.
Thank you. The second item is a letter of agreement with the WIC program. As you know, this is a program that we have participated in for several years. This does need a commissioner's signature. The letter looks like this, and it's got over here on the bottom, I will need a commissioner's signature on it for us to continue. We do not know how much we will receive from that grant yet. I will get back to you for that, with that information. It runs a little different. The previous 3 run the state's fiscal year, which is June or July 1 to the end of June. This grant actually runs from October 1 through the end of September. So we're just now getting ready to start submitting budgets and things like that. And our plan is to increase our current budget by 5%, which is allowed by them to do that. So I guess I need you to approve.
We need a motion for that? Do we need a motion for that,
The
Dean?
WIC
Yeah.
agreement?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that the commission sign the WIC letter of agreement.
Dustin, second.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Don, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you.
The third item regards the medical director appointment for the health department. Dr. Lynn Fisher, who has been our medical director for 2+ years, has moved from our community and is now living in Wichita, teaching at the University of Kansas Wichita facility, and was no longer able to continue. I have talked to Dr. Knoll, and she is willing to take the responsibilities of being our medical director. So before you, on your desk, you have a letter that appoints her that looks like this, and a thank you letter for Dr. Fisher.
We have signed that, Carrie, and Donna has that.
Okay? I think I need a motion for you to appoint her.
I'll make that motion.
Sure. I'll make a motion that we appoint Dr. Tanya Knoll as the medical director for the Ellis County Health Department.
I second that motion.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you. The final thing that I have, last week, Commissioner Hazelhorse, you asked about comments for the 2020 budget. I wasn't really prepared to talk to you all about that at that moment because I hadn't spoken to the county administrator. I wanted an opportunity to talk with him about it. There's approximately $146,689. Don't hold me exactly to that number, but it's somewhere between $146,500 and $147,000 that we received back for the cost of remodeling. A suggestion I would have to help the budget process and to help the administration of the two departments would be to take that money that is in the bank, we have received it, it has been deposited, or take $846,500 out of the health department budget and move it to Fund 16. What this would do then would allow Mr. Kennedy, who's going to follow me as the administrator of those agencies, an opportunity to reassess how we do business in these two departments. And if then it gives him an opportunity to evaluate where he may or may not need help. At that point, in 6 months, 8 months, whatever the timetable may be, he can come to you and say, I really need help in X, Y, and Z areas. And there is funding there that would help get him through, or that position through the end of 20 and through 21 in those dollars. As we've talked, it's really difficult to be efficient in both agencies not being in the same building. And with the promotion, we're essentially giving him 3 full-time jobs rather than 2. And so I'm trying to help make sure he succeeds and put him in a position to be successful. So that is a budget discussion for you to have. It's not something that we can go, County Administrator, Mr. Haynes advised me it's not something we can go to executive session because it's not a personal matter, it's a budget issue. So I'm putting it out before you. And with that, if there's no questions, I will leave and let you discuss.
Well, I think, just to clarify, the necessity for this is because we've eliminated the assistant director at the EMS. Is that
Yes.
correct?
With the 1.5% mandatory decrease and the subsequent budget issues, we talked about it internally. Jason and I had the discussion, and that appeared to be the place that we could take those dollars out because it actually came out in the EMS budget to be about a 5% decrease. And that way we didn't affect services provided. We have still crews on the street. Now he's going to have the opportunity to maybe retask some supervisors or lieutenants with additional duties, and he'll have an opportunity to do that.
You know, I like the sounds of that, where we move the funds now. When Jason takes over, he gets 6 months, 8 months. Whenever he sees any kind of need, I'm real confident in his ability to tell us where he thinks he needs some help, and at least those funds will be moved and available, where he can tell us what kind of person he needs, and we can create a position if we need to.
Yes, Gary?
I can tell you that when Butch retired and Phil and I were talking about this, we contacted the other counties that were doing it, and to the county, they said, it is really important that you have a very strong second person in each department to handle day-to-day operation things while you're bouncing back and forth between departments. So it's really important that he has strong backing.
Thanks, Gary. Rich, anything to add?
Oh, I think it's just real good to strategically look at that. Should the need arise, we'll be prepared for it.
If we move that money into Fund 16, I think that's a great idea. We need a motion for that, correct? Or not? Not for budget?
Put it into the final.
You can just do it for your
We'll
final.
talk about that here in a little bit
Sorry about that.
in more detail, but yeah,
Okay. Didn't mean to take your thunder.
it's okay. Not the first time.
Trust me. Okay. We'll wait for Phil's discussion and presentation. Federal Build Grant Application, Northwest Corridor, Bill Ring.
Good evening again, Commissioners. Bill Ring, Public Works Director. This is all good news I'm going to present to you tonight. What I'm going to read to you, and I'll clarify the details of this, what we're asking for. The action requested is to authorize the Public Works Director to submit a federal grant application for $8.7 million. Second, to authorize the Commission Chair to sign that, which is required. And the third would be to assign an additional $100,000 from Road and Bridges Fund 78, our highway fund, to the $800,000 that the commission already approved for that. We have to add that to it. So those are the three action items, and the motion reads according to that. Right now, and this is not the final draft, this is probably draft number 7, but we're getting down to where we've got it. It's due a week from today. We're allowed 30 pages. I believe we're at 28 pages. You don't include the cover sheet. You don't include the index. But it's getting there where we're just going to fine tune it. We actually, Phil and I have another conference call to go through details tomorrow to just make basically the spell check, the verb check, to make sure it reads properly, that the photos are what we want and where we want. So that's all good. So we would like to submit this on Friday. We want it to be in before the weekend. Okay, so that's where we're at with the grant itself. I'm sure that the commission chair has no problem with, putting his name on it. And then because of the way this works with the percentages, we have to make sure that we have a full 20% match to the total of the grant, the cost that we're providing for this. So that was a little over $10 million. 10.7? 10.8. Okay. Those numbers have fluctuated. But anyway, so with the 8.7 ask, with the now 900,000, with the money that's been put up through KDOT, that's the formula we need to make it look correctly on paper, which is why, and so when the county administrator and I talked about this, we did the math, we needed another 100,000. Well, there's only one place that's got it, so we're asking you to, just like you did. So anyway, that's the overview of it. I think it's all good news. I think the entire team has spent countless hours. That man has spent more than you can believe. Phone calls, time in the office, time out of the office. So we would just like you to approve our marching orders, go forward, And it would be approximately November or possibly even December, somewhere the latter part of that month, before we would be informed.
Okay.
So I would stand for any questions.
I think you've both done a good job, and all your other helpers. Phil, thanks for all your help on this. I know you've made a lot of phone calls, spent a lot of time on it.
I think we particularly need to acknowledge the work of our engineer. I promised him an adult beverage when this thing gets submitted, because he has, we're paying him. You authorized a big check to him in the accounts payable, but he has truly devoted a lot of effort to this.
He's not, and I'll concur with what the administrator's saying, he's working Saturdays, Sundays, early mornings, late nights. He's not doing an 8 to 5 on this. He is putting 125% effort into, he wants to see us get this.
Good.
I
Thank
think
you
we
both
gave
and
gave him
everybody.
quite the task to get it in time, and this is a big project, but I can't express enough how important I think it is to commerce in all of northwest Kansas, and especially to Ellis County, with the size of the businesses out there and the potential we have for the amount of traffic that'll be on our roads up there. I think this is one of the most important things that our commission as a whole has looked at, for sure. So even when we're making really tough budget decisions, it's kind of nice to look out over the edge and see that we can work on something big like this. Thanks for all the help from all of you guys on that.
Definitely.
Just one quick question, Bill. You might not even know the answer to this. If we did get the grant, when would construction start?
We have a timetable.
2022, Commissioner.
2022? Okay.
Yeah, if we're informed of a grant award in November, it will take approximately a year to get through the paperwork process with the feds before we would actually be on solid ground. And then you'd have to do the final design work, all your site prep, and so forth. So there wouldn't be any concrete laid down out there until spring of 2022.
Okay.
There you go. This time I'll ask for a motion.
I'd move that the commission authorize Public Works Director submit the application for the build grant prior to the due date of July 15th, 2019, and authorize the chair of the county commission to sign the application letter and allocate $100,000 from Fund 78 to the existing $800,000 reserved for this project.
I second that motion.
Donna, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Thank you both. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0.
If I can interject one other item on the 230th project. We did put a press release out, public PSA the end of last week. We will be starting the box culvert that's just past the Midwest Energy substation. We're so narrow there, Monday morning, a week from today. And we've informed the media, we've put on social media. A couple of supervisors went out and visited with a lot of the folks to be sure. I've been calling, sending emails, et cetera, to make sure that everyone knows that 230th between 55th Street or Fairground Road and Feedlot will be closed for next week, Monday through Thursday.
Okay.
So, and the Feedlot Road overlay that we agreed to do, that's been taken care of. I think the last thing they did was going to bring we've got one of those big rotary brooms, go up there and kind of knock the dirt and rocks and whatever residual off of that. And so that's ready to go right now, so the people that can't drive 230th can drive Feedlot.
Oh, okay. So that project has already been done, or it's
Correct.
ready?
Yeah, we
Okay.
did that. We did the double sand seal on that. That's
Okay.
done. We just need to clean it up a little bit, which is what they're working on this week, while they're getting everything prepped to go ahead and put this new box in where the bad culvert is, the small culvert. So,
Very good.
and it will be, just so you understand, it'll be a temporary culvert. We're using 5-foot corrugated metal pipe, 60-foot, so that way we're not going to lock the bridge placement till they get the county administrator was alluding to, till we get the final designs, which should be, the fall of next year, then we would determine exactly where and that'll come out. Well, we had a bunch of extra tube in our storage yard, and so we're reusing tube, and then we'll pull it out, and then we'd put a concrete structure back in for permanency.
Great.
So,
Good.
and then the last thing, I'll just bring this up. You were talking, as with some of the other department heads, and we talk every executive team meeting about succession planning. Don't forget about the Public Works Department.
10
Got
years.
the what?
10 years.
I got my Medicare card today there, so.
That means you got 10 more years.
But seriously, and for the whole county, succession planning is a vital need that we, and without having a second, we should all work together, whatever we can do to try to, come up with a successful plan for. I want to see the county succeed. I want to see this project through fruition. I want to see that road out there, and I want to see us just continue to do good things for the county. But we have to keep in mind that, we are getting older, so for all of us. So with that, I say thank you for approving that. And if you have any questions about any more about the road, please call me.
Thanks, Bill. Certification of voting delegate for KAC Conference, County Administrator Philip Smith-Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, November 12th seems like a long ways away, but it'll be here before you know it, and we will all be in Wichita for the annual conference for the Kansas Association of Counties. All three of the commissioners registered this year. So KAC has sent out their annual request for certification of a voting delegate and alternates, and would ask the commissioners to pick that and let Donna know so she can certify it and send it back to them. Be happy to answer questions.
Dean, you want to be our voter?
Sure. I
Okay.
guess so.
Well, let's have Dean be the voter, and Butch, you be the first alternate. I'll be the second alternate if you guys
Sounds like a plan.
don't make it,
Okay.
because I plan to make it, so.
Me too. God willing. And continue on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, County Administrator Philip Smith-Haynes. So, a few different things to talk about this evening. First, I will reiterate now, I guess, that the culvert on 230th is being replaced next week, and that road will be closed starting July 15th, 7:30 a.m. through July 18th at 5 p.m. No bill covered that, but I think it bears repeating one more time. The second thing, we talked back on May 6th about getting a flood insurance quote on the 601 Main Street building, but we never actually signed that piece of paper. So I actually need the chairman to sign that today so I can return that to K-Camp. Third, just to alert you, you recently approved a position for Assistant Director of Fire and Emergency Management. We brought the job description to the commission and you adopted it. I failed to notice on that there had been a typo on there, and so we need to change exempt to non-exempt on the Fair Labor Standards Act piece of that. So I just didn't want to do that without the three of you knowing, because you are the approvers of those. Then I would ask the chair to see if there's anyone else who would like to discuss their budgets this evening. As you know, you ask folks to appear last week or this week so that we could get everything wrapped up for next week. So I see a couple of our outside agencies and a couple department heads here. If anybody has anything to say.
Any outside agencies have anything to say before we talk about it? Seeing none. Commissioners? Dustin or Butch, whoever?
You know, all we talked about last meeting was some additional funding for the grants for farm ground and soil conservations. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to think on that. I mean, I would say that for me, I feel like I'm okay with where our funding is now, but I do know that is something that they had come to us and asked about, so I didn't know if you had a chance to consider it, that additional $10,000 in funding.
I thought a lot about it, and I was opposed to increasing anything on it, just because it was a Board of Commissioners put it in place 30-plus years ago, doesn't bind me today.
Okay.
And I think we got to go with what we originally said.
I thought about it and made some phone calls, and I've actually used that cost share on rebuilding terraces, and I thought of half, reinstating half, but that was my thought. But I know you were opposed to increasing, and I kind of felt the same way from Dustin, so sounds like we don't need to vote on it. Sounds like it's a 2-to-1.
Yeah, I think as much as the farmers need help, the idea that the project wasn't designed for people that were in need of the help was probably my biggest issue with it, coming from a small farming family. I could see my family not in Ellis County utilizing a project like this, but I could also see people with more resources maybe utilizing it a little quicker and easier because they have more time on their hands, but for me, it, you know, is a tough decision, and I'm glad they brought it back to our attention. But I think that I'd agree with Butch on this. I think that we stick to our guns on this, and hopefully there's funding in the future where we can maybe get back on this project.
Well, and as I thought about this, we cut funding for mental health, DSNWK, the Children's Center, transportation van, and those funding cuts are going to affect individuals' daily lives. Absolutely. And if we can't restore funding there, I sure don't want to restore funding to build dirt projects. You know, to me, it's just a no-brainer.
Thank you both. Okay, we'll leave it the same. Phil, no change.
All right. So then I will be bringing a budget proposal next Monday that will reflect the outside agencies staying just as we had previously discussed. I've heard 2 changes to departments discussed since we talked about the budget last. One, obviously, was the approval of the assistant director position in fire and emergency management. So we'll have both a revenue and an expenditure on the emergency management side, and then we'll also adjust the expenditures on the fire district side as well to make that happen. And then this evening, you talked about doing a transfer in the current year, and then what we would do next year is a transfer back from Fund 16, and then an associated expenditure. Obviously, if we find out we don't need the expenditure, we don't have to make the transfer back. But that's how I would budget it for next year in EMS. And so that's all I've heard. If there are any other changes the commission would like to see before next Monday, speak now or forever hold your peace. Once we get it next Monday, you can always reduce it, but you can't increase it from that point on. So
I looked it over pretty good over the weekend, Phil. I had nothing to change. Commissioners, anything else? Dustin? Nothing?
I think we made it where we needed to be on it this year, and have some additional questions next year.
Butch, feel the same way, I think?
You bet.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Is that all you had?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. County Commission reports, Dustin, I think it's your turn to go first.
Okay. Something I forgot to mention last week, I attended a meeting for Community Corrections and Juvenile Services, and we approved our budgets for that, and still getting my feet wet with that to figure exactly what they need from me on that board, but it's definitely interesting and something that I'm going to try and be as valuable of a member of that board as I can, and hopefully reach out to be a better contributing member. But being that this was the first meeting that I was able to attend, it was me more just sitting around listening to them talk about this. So the only other thing I wanted to report on was my thoughts for what we're going to be looking at next year, and in those thoughts, it's always about what we should be doing as a government, and what we shouldn't be doing. And one thing that's kind of been going through my head is where the free market does, I don't think that we should do. And so I just wanted to share that thought with you guys. There can be an ever-expanding private sector that we love to watch grow and stuff, but at any place that we can, I'd rather not be a competitor to them with taxpayer money. That's all I have. I have a healthy baby girl, and that's also something I forgot to mention because of a skip of a week, but she's happy, healthy, and so is Mom, and we're going to try and keep it that way.
There you go. Butch?
Weekly fishing report. I was out fishing last Tuesday. Got out there before the holiday. Fishing was good. Caught 15 fish, mostly walleye, nice ones. So I'm going to go try it again tomorrow. We'll see what happens.
There you go. Well, good luck. I don't have too much to report either. Harvest is going well, and did talk to a few folks on our Northwest Corridor project, and I think we're going forward. So I guess that's all. Phil, anything to add? You good? We will adjourn at 5:40.